The moment a billionaire's wife realized her mistake, but the door was already locked. When Vivian Hart returned from her week-long escape to Lake Tahoe, ready to end her marriage on her own terms, she found strangers living in her house. Her keys didn't work. Her husband was gone. Everything she thought would wait forever had vanished in 7 days. What she didn't know was that while she was posting sunset photos with her old flame, Ethan Cole was dismantling their entire life with surgical precision, and he wasn't coming back. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. The rain in Seattle came down in sheets that night, hammering against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse like it had something to prove. Ethan Cole sat at the dining table with his laptop open, the glow washing his face in cold blue light. Numbers swam across the screen, architectural renderings, contract clauses, budget projections for the Singapore development that could change everything. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he hadn't noticed. Across the room, Vivian Hart stood by the bar cart, pouring herself a third glass of wine she didn't need. She was still in the clothes she'd worn to lunch with her friends. A silk blouse that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, tailored pants that fit like they'd been painted on. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, the kind of severe elegance that belonged on magazine covers, which it had been, multiple times. "You're really doing this," she said. Not a question, an accusation. Ethan didn't look up. "We talked about this already, Viv." "No, you talked. I listened to you justify abandoning your family for 6 months. It's a contract. It's work. It's what I do. It's Singapore." She said it like the word tasted bad. "It's halfway around the world, Ethan, and you're acting like it's a weekend trip to Portland." He finally closed the laptop, sat back, rubbed his eyes. 32 years old, and he felt 50. The firm needs this. We land this project, we're not just another boutique architecture shop anymore. We're legitimate, international. "We?" Vivian laughed, sharp and humorless. "There is no we in your career, Ethan. There never has been. It's always been about what you need, what the firm needs, what your ambitions require." "That's not fair." "Fair?" She took a long drink. "You want to talk about fair? I gave up my apartment in Manhattan. I moved here to this rainy nightmare of a city because you said Seattle was perfect for starting over. I've been the supportive wife while you built your little dream firm from nothing. And now you want me to just smile and wave while you fly off to Asia for half a year?" Ethan stood up slowly. He was tall, lean, the kind of build that came from forgetting to eat rather than working out. His dark hair was getting too long, curling at his collar. He needed a haircut. He needed sleep. He needed this conversation to be over. "You didn't give up anything," he said quietly. "You've got your own money, your own life, your own friends. You do whatever you want, whenever you want. I've never stopped you." "How generous!" Her voice dripped with contempt. The working-class hero giving his rich wife permission to have a social life. "That's not what I—" He stopped, took a breath. They'd had this fight before, in different variations, with different words that all meant the same thing. "I don't want to do this tonight." "Of course you don't. You never want to do this. You never want to actually deal with what's happening between us." "What is happening between us, Vivian? Tell me. Because from where I'm standing, you've been looking for the exit for months, maybe longer." She froze, glass halfway to her lips. Something flickered across her face, surprise, maybe, that he'd actually said it out loud. Then it was gone, replaced by that cool mask she wore so well. "I need space," she said. "You have an entire penthouse. I need space from you." There it was. The thing they'd been dancing around for weeks, maybe months. The truth sitting between them like a third person in the room. Ethan felt something crack in his chest. Not break, not yet. Just crack. A hairline fracture running through the foundation of everything he'd built with this woman. "Okay," he said. Vivian blinked. "Okay? You need space. Fine, take it. I'll sleep in the guest room." "That's not—" She set the glass down too hard. "I'm talking about real space, Ethan, not separate bedrooms in the same apartment." "Then what?" "I want to go to Tahoe for a week, clear my head, figure things out." His stomach dropped. "Who's going to Tahoe?" "Some friends, people you don't know. Which friends? Does it matter? Yeah, Viv, it matters. She looked away toward the windows, the rain, the lights of the city bleeding together in the wet darkness. Marcus will be there, and there it was. The name he'd known was coming. Marcus fucking Reeves, the ex-boyfriend, the college sweetheart, the one who got away, or the one she'd never quite let go of. Married now, 2 kids, a wife who didn't know her husband still texted Vivian at 2 in the morning when he'd had too much to drink and started feeling nostalgic. Ethan had seen the messages. 6 months ago, when Vivian had left her phone on the bathroom counter and it kept lighting up with notifications. He hadn't meant to look, but once he started, he couldn't stop. And what he'd found had been eating at him ever since. Nothing explicit, nothing physical, just the kind of emotional intimacy that felt worse than sex. Inside jokes. Shared memories. The easy shorthand of 2 people who'd loved each other once and maybe never really stopped. Of course he will, Ethan said. It's not like that. Isn't it? He's married, Ethan. Happily married. Is he? Because those texts you've been getting don't sound like a happily married guy. Her face flushed. You went through my phone? You left it open. So you invaded my privacy? So you're not denying it. They stared at each other across the expanse of the living room. 10 feet apart. Might as well have been 10 miles. Vivian's voice went cold. I'm going to Tahoe. I'm leaving Saturday. I'll be gone a week. You can either deal with it like an adult, or you can throw a tantrum. Your choice. And if I ask you not to go, then I'd say you don't get to control me. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to save our marriage. By what? Forbidding me from seeing my friends? By asking you not to spend a week in a cabin with a man you're obviously not over. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, that's rich. Coming from the man who's about to abandon me for 6 months. It's work. It's a choice, just like Tahoe is my choice. Ethan felt it then. The real break. Not a crack. A clean snap. Something fundamental giving way. You know what? He said quietly. Go. What? Go to Tahoe. Go find yourself. Go be with Marcus or whoever else you need to be with. But if you walk out that door to figure out what you want, don't expect me to be here waiting when you get back. Vivian went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being the guy you settle for while you wonder if you made a mistake. If you need space to figure out if I'm enough for you, then you already have your answer. That's not... It is. He picked up his laptop, tucked it under his arm. I'm going to finish this contract review. You're going to pack for Tahoe. And when you get back, we'll talk about what happens next. Or we won't. Either way, I'm not doing this anymore. He started toward the hallway. Ethan. He stopped but didn't turn around. Don't call me while I'm gone, she said. I need this time to think, without you in my ear. He almost said something, almost asked if Marcus would be in her ear instead. But what was the point? He already knew the answer. Have a great trip, he said, and walked away. Ethan's daughter Maya was asleep when he checked on her. 7 years old, dark curls spread across her pillow, one arm hanging off the side of the bed. He straightened her blanket, moved the stuffed elephant closer to her face. She stirred but didn't wake. This was what mattered. This was what was real. Maya was his from a previous relationship. A brief, intense thing in his mid-20s that had burned bright and flamed out fast. Her mother had left when Maya was 2, deciding motherhood wasn't for her, signing over custody and disappearing into a new life in California. Ethan had been raising Maya alone when he met Vivian 3 years ago. Vivian had seemed charmed by the single dad thing at first, had talked about wanting kids of her own someday, had played the stepmother role with enthusiasm and grace. But that had faded too. Like everything else, now Vivian barely interacted with Maya, polite but distant, present but absent. And Maya, smart kid that she was, had noticed, had stopped asking Vivian to read bedtime stories, had stopped trying to show her drawings from school. Kids knew when they weren't wanted. Ethan kissed Maya's forehead and left the room, closing the door with a soft click. In the guest bedroom, he sat on the edge of the bed with his laptop open again, but he couldn't focus on the Singapore contract. The words blurred together. His mind kept circling back to the fight, to Vivian's face, to the name that hung between them like smoke. Marcus Reeves. He pulled up Facebook, something he rarely did anymore, and found Marcus's profile. Still public, still full of pictures that looked like they'd been staged for a lifestyle magazine. Marcus and his wife at some charity gala. Marcus and his kids at Disneyland. Marcus on a sailboat. Golden hour light making everything look perfect. The wife was beautiful. Blonde, polished, the kind of woman who probably had her life color-coded in a planner. 2 kids, both under 5, both impossibly photogenic. And yet Marcus was texting Vivian at 2 in the morning. Ethan closed the laptop. He should sleep. He had a meeting at 8. He had a daughter to get ready for school. He had a life that required him to function like a normal human being, but instead, he pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. Robert Chen answered on the 3rd ring. "It's almost midnight, Ethan. This better be good. I need to talk about a divorce." Silence. Then, "Yours?" "Yeah." "Jesus. Okay. Can this wait until morning? I need to understand the process, what it looks like, how long it takes." "You're serious." I'm serious." Robert sighed. The sound of rustling, like he was sitting up in bed. "Washington's a no-fault state, community property. You've been married, what, 2 years?" "Almost 3. Kids together?" "No, I have Maya from before, but Vivian never adopted her." "That simplifies things." "Assets?" "The house is in both our names. Everything else is pretty separate. She has her family money. I have the firm." "Any prenup?" "No." "Okay, so the house gets split, 50-50 equity. Everything else acquired during the marriage gets divided. It's actually pretty straightforward if you can agree on terms. Could be done in a few months if you don't fight it." Ethan closed his eyes. "What if I wanted to sell the house?" "You'd need her consent, or you'd have to wait until the divorce is final and force a sale through the court." "What if I sold it before filing?" Robert paused. "Legally, you can't sell a jointly owned property without both signatures. But theoretically, you're talking about moving assets around before a divorce filing, which courts don't love. But if everything's divided fairly and documented and she gets her share of the proceeds, then there's no real issue. Why?" "Just thinking." "Ethan, whatever you're thinking about doing, sleep on it. Don't make big decisions at midnight after a fight with your wife." "Thanks, Robert. I'll call you tomorrow." "Ethan?" He hung up. For a long time, he sat in the dark guest bedroom, listening to the rain, thinking about everything that had led him here. He'd built a good life, a real life. From nothing. A kid from a foster system who'd clawed his way through community college and then architecture school on scholarships and student loans. Who'd worked 3 jobs to make rent. Who'd learned to be a father when he was barely more than a kid himself. He'd met Vivian at a gallery opening, one of those pretentious art things his business partner had dragged him to. She'd been standing in front of a painting that cost more than his car, looking bored. He'd made a joke about it. She'd laughed. And for a while it had been good. She'd liked that he didn't care about her money, liked that he'd never asked her for anything, liked that he was different from the trust fund assholes she'd grown up around. But somewhere along the way, different had become less than. Self-made had become striving. And the man who didn't need her money had become the man who wasn't rich enough, connected enough, established enough. He wasn't Marcus Reeves, who'd been born into the right family, gone to the right schools, married the right kind of woman. He was just Ethan Cole, architect, single dad, guy who'd thought love was enough. He pulled up his email and started typing. 2. Richard Tan, Horizon Development Group. Subject, REIT, Singapore contract, acceptance. Richard, after careful consideration, I'm ready to accept the terms we discussed. I can be in Singapore by the end of next week to begin the preliminary design phase. Please send over the final contract and we'll make this official. Looking forward to working together. Ethan Cole. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Then he opened a new message. 2. Sarah Kim, Premier Realty. Sarah, I need to discuss listing my property at Mercer Court. Can you come by tomorrow afternoon? I'm looking for a fast sale. Price it to move. Thanks, Ethan. Send. One more. 2. Robert Chen and Associates. Robert, I'll need those divorce papers drawn up. Standard no fault, community property split. I want everything ready to file by next week. Let me know what you need from me. Ethan, send. He sat back, heart pounding. This was insane. This was reckless. This was done. He was done. Saturday morning came too fast. Ethan woke to the sound of suitcases rolling across hardwood, designer luggage clicking down the hallway. Maya was at a friend's house for a sleepover. The penthouse felt cavernous and empty. He found Vivian in the master bedroom, checking her reflection one last time. She looked perfect. She always looked perfect. That was part of the problem. I'm leaving, she said without turning around. I know. I'll be back next Saturday. Okay. She finally looked at him. Really looked at him. Are you all right? I'm fine. You look tired. I am tired. She picked up her purse, checked for her phone, her wallet, whatever else billionaire heiresses needed for a week in Tahoe. We'll talk when I get back. Will we? Don't do that. Do what? Be passive-aggressive. It doesn't suit you. He almost laughed. Have a good time, Vivian. She hesitated at the door. For a second, just a second, he thought she might stay. Might put down the suitcase and say she was sorry, say she'd made a mistake, say she wanted to fix this. But she didn't. Don't call me, she said again. I won't. And then she was gone. Ethan stood in the empty bedroom for a long time, listening to the silence. Then he pulled out his phone and made the calls he'd been planning since Wednesday. First, Sarah Kim, who arrived that afternoon with a photographer and a staging consultant and a price that made Ethan's stomach turn. The house would list Monday. With the market the way it was, she expected offers within days. Second, a moving company. The good kind, the expensive kind, the kind that could pack up an entire household in 48 hours and ship it internationally. They'd start Tuesday. Third, a storage unit for Vivian's things. Everything carefully cataloged, photographed, insured. Completely legal, completely documented. Fourth, his business partner James, who took the news about Singapore with enthusiasm and the news about the divorce with stunned silence. Are you sure about this? James asked. I'm sure. It's fast, man. Really fast. It needs to be. She's going to lose her mind when she finds out. Probably. You okay? Ask me in a year. Fifth, Robert Chen, who had the divorce papers ready, the property settlement calculated, every detail locked down tight. You understand this is irreversible once she's served? Robert said. I understand. And you're okay with that? I'm not okay with any of this. But it's what needs to happen. By Sunday night, the machinery was in motion. The house had offers. The movers were scheduled. The lawyers were briefed. Ethan had booked a flight to Singapore for the following Sunday, the day after Vivian was supposed to come home. Maya, when he told her they were moving to Singapore for a while, had been thrilled. Adventure, new city, international school. She'd started making lists of things to pack, completely unfazed by the chaos unraveling around her. Kids were resilient like that. Or maybe she was just relieved to be getting away from the Cold War the penthouse had become. Monday. The house went live online at 9 a.m. By noon, there were 3 offers. By 5 p.m., there were 7. Ethan accepted the best one, a young tech couple who were pre-approved, paying cash, willing to close in 10 days. Sarah Kim called him, breathless. This is the fastest sale I've had in 5 years. Great. You're sure about this? You're not going to have seller's remorse? I'm sure. Tuesday. The movers arrived. Ethan had already marked everything, his stuff, Maya's stuff, things for storage, things for donation. They worked with mechanical efficiency, wrapping and boxing and labeling. The penthouse slowly emptied out. He kept his phone face down on the kitchen counter. Vivian had posted to Instagram that morning, a photo of herself on a dock, sun-kissed and laughing, cocktail in hand. Caption, finding myself again. 3,000 likes in an hour. Marcus Reeves had commented, about time. Ethan didn't look at the comments after that. Wednesday. The container ship was booked. Maya's school had her records ready for transfer. The Singapore apartment was rented. Everything was clicking into place with the kind of precision that only came from total emotional detachment. James stopped by with coffee and concern. You're really doing this? I'm really doing this. Have you heard from her at all? Nope. She doesn't know. She said not to call. Jesus, Ethan. What? This is nuclear. Yeah. You understand she's going to come back and find her entire life gone. Her life was already gone. She just didn't know it yet. James ran a hand through his hair. I hope you know what you're doing. Me too. Thursday. The closing was scheduled for Monday morning, 48 hours before Vivian's return. The movers finished packing. The penthouse was down to bare walls and empty rooms. Ethan and Maya moved into a hotel downtown. Maya asked if Vivian was coming to Singapore too. No, sweetheart, she's not. Is she mad at us? She's figuring some things out. Are you getting divorced? Kids. They always knew. Yeah, we are. Maya nodded, like this confirmed something she'd suspected for a while. Okay. You okay? She shrugged. She never really liked me anyway. That hurt more than it should have. That's not true, Ethan said, even though it kind of was. It's okay, Dad. I have you. He pulled her into a hug and tried not to let her feel him shake. Friday. Robert Chen had everything ready. The divorce papers were filed but not yet served. That would happen Saturday after the house closed, after everything was finalized. The timing had to be perfect. Vivian's storage unit was packed full, every item photographed, every box labeled. Her equity from the house, calculated to the dollar, was ready to transfer the moment the sale went through. This is the cleanest divorce I've ever seen, Robert said. Coldest too. Clean is good. Is it? Ethan didn't answer that. That night, he sat in the hotel room after Maya fell asleep, looking out at the Seattle skyline, thinking about the woman he'd married. The woman who'd looked at him 3 years ago like he was exactly what she'd been searching for. Who'd said yes when he'd proposed at that same gallery where they'd met. Who'd promised to build a life with him. Where had it gone wrong? Or had it been wrong from the start and he'd just been too hopeful to see it? His phone buzzed, a text from a number he didn't recognize. This is Marcus. We need to talk. Ethan stared at it for a long moment. Then he blocked the number and turned off his phone. Saturday morning. The day Vivian was supposed to come home. Ethan was at the airport with Maya, bags checked, boarding passes printed. The house had closed 3 hours earlier. The new owners had the keys. Vivian's equity had been wired to her account. Her belongings were in climate-controlled storage, unit number and access code sent to her email. The divorce papers had been served electronically at 8 a.m. per Washington state law. Process server confirmed receipt. It was done. All of it. Ethan sat at the gate, Maya playing a game on his phone, and tried to feel something. Guilt, regret, satisfaction, anything. But there was just numbness, and underneath the numbness, something that might eventually become relief. His lawyer called. She's trying to reach you. I figured. 17 calls to my office in the last hour. What did you tell her? That all communication needs to go through me. That the settlement is final. That the house sale was legal and documented. How did she take it? About how you'd expect. Ethan could imagine. The shock. The disbelief. The fury. Vivian Hart, who'd never been told no in her entire life, suddenly confronted with a door that had been locked from the other side. There's something else, Robert said. What? She went to the house. Ethan's stomach dropped. When? About an hour ago. Apparently she tried to use her key. The new owners called the police. It's all very civil, but she's claiming she owns the property. Jesus. The cops looked up the deed. It's in the new owner's names as of this morning. Clean title. She has no legal claim. Where is she now? I don't know. She stopped calling about 20 minutes ago. Okay. Ethan, this is going to get messy. It already is messy. I mean legally, emotionally. She's got resources. She's got family lawyers who specialize in making people's lives difficult. Let them try. Everything's documented. Everything's legal. I gave her exactly what she was entitled to. I know. I'm just saying, be prepared. I'm prepared. He hung up. Maya looked up from the phone. Is Vivian calling you? Yeah. Are you going to answer? No. Good. They called their flight. Ethan gathered their things, took Maya's hand, and walked toward the gate, toward Singapore, toward whatever came next. Behind him, Seattle disappeared, and with it, the last 3 years of his life. Somewhere across the city, Vivian Hart sat in her car outside what used to be her house, shaking so hard she could barely hold her phone. The screen was full of unanswered calls, voicemails she'd left that would never be returned. The email from Ethan was open in front of her. Formal, cold, precise. The marriage is over. The house has been sold. Your share of the equity has been transferred to your account. Your belongings are in storage. The address and access code are below. The divorce papers have been filed. Please direct all future communication to my attorney. I hope you find what you're looking for. E. She read it again and again, trying to find some crack in the language, some hint that he was bluffing, that this was a dramatic gesture meant to scare her straight. But there was nothing, just facts, just finality. She pulled up her bank account. The wire transfer was there. Exactly half the equity from the house, down to the cent. She pulled up the property records. The house was no longer in her name. She called her mother, who answered with alarm. Vivian? What's wrong? He left me, Vivian said, and started to cry. Not because she loved Ethan, she'd stopped being sure about that months ago, but because for the first time in her entire privileged life, someone had walked away from her first. And she had no idea what to do with that. The flight to Singapore was 14 hours, and Ethan didn't sleep for a single minute of it. Maya conked out before they even reached cruising altitude, her head against his shoulder, stuffed elephant clutched in her arms. Around them, the plane hummed with the white noise of recycled air and muted conversations. Business travelers typed on laptops. A baby cried somewhere in economy. The flight attendants made their rounds with practiced smiles. Ethan stared out the window at nothing but darkness and tried not to think about what he'd just done. His phone was off. Had been off since they'd boarded. He hadn't checked it, hadn't turned it on, hadn't let himself wonder how many messages were waiting. The not knowing was better. The not knowing let him pretend, just for a few more hours, that he'd made a clean break. That the explosion happening back in Seattle was contained to a different world, a different life. A life he didn't live anymore. The flight attendant stopped by his row. Can I get you anything, sir? Water? Juice? Whiskey, Ethan said. Double. She brought it without judgment. He drank it too fast, felt the burn, ordered another. By the time they landed in Singapore, he was running on fumes and alcohol and the kind of adrenaline that came from burning your entire life down and walking away without looking back. The airport was massive, gleaming, almost aggressively modern. Everything was glass and chrome and efficiency, signs in 4 languages. People moving with purpose. Maya woke up groggy and cranky, complaining about her ears popping. We're here, sweetheart, Ethan said, trying to sound enthusiastic. Singapore. She looked around with bleary eyes. It's big. Yeah, it is. They cleared customs, collected their bags, stepped out into the arrivals hall where a driver was waiting with Ethan's name on a placard. Richard Tan, the developer who'd hired him, had arranged everything. Car service, temporary apartment, work visa paperwork, international school enrollment for Maya. The works. Money opened doors, even when it wasn't your own money. The drive into the city was surreal. The humidity hit like a wall the moment they stepped outside. Even at night, even with the air conditioning blasting in the car, Ethan could feel it pressing in. The driver made small talk about the weather, the traffic, the best hawker centers for authentic food. Ethan nodded and made appropriate sounds, but absorbed none of it. The apartment was in a high-rise near Marina Bay, the kind of place that cost more per month than most people's salaries. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Modern furniture that looked like it came from a catalog. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen Ethan would probably never use. Maya walked through the rooms, exploring, her exhaustion temporarily forgotten in the novelty of it all. Dad, there's a pool. Can we go swimming tomorrow? Sure, kiddo. And there's a gym. Do they have a kids' gym? I don't know. We'll find out. She disappeared into her new bedroom, and Ethan was alone in the living room, looking out at a city he didn't know, in a country he'd visited exactly once before for a consulting gig. He'd been here 3 days that time, barely saw anything beyond the hotel and the office. Now, he lived here. For the next 6 months, minimum. Maybe longer, if he couldn't face going back. He pulled out his phone, stared at it for a long moment, then turned it on. It took 30 seconds for the notifications to start flooding in. 47 missed calls, 32 voicemails, 68 text messages, emails in the triple digits, most from Vivian, some from her mother, Constance Hart, a woman who'd never liked Ethan and had made no secret of thinking her daughter had married beneath her station. A few from numbers he didn't recognize. One from Marcus Reeves. Ethan deleted that one without reading it. He scrolled through Vivian's texts, watching the emotional arc play out in real time. Confusion at first. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Then anger. This is insane. You can't just sell our house. Then panic. Please call me. We need to talk about this. Then bargaining. I made a mistake. I know I did. But this isn't how we fix it. Then rage. You're a coward. You're pathetic. You couldn't even face me. The final text had come in 6 hours ago. I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything. Ethan set the phone down. Destroyed everything, like she hadn't spent the last 6 months doing exactly that. Like she hadn't walked out the door to spend a week with another man. Like she hadn't flinched every time he touched her. Like she hadn't made him feel like an inconvenience in his own marriage. But sure, he'd destroyed everything. His phone rang. Vivian. Again. He watched it buzz against the coffee table, her name flashing on the screen, and let it go to voicemail. Then he blocked her number. Not forever. Just for now. Just until he could breathe without feeling like his chest was caving in. The voicemail notification popped up 30 seconds later. He didn't listen to it. Instead, he called Robert Chen. It was early afternoon in Seattle, which meant Robert was probably in the office, probably dealing with the fallout. Jesus Christ, Ethan, Robert said by way of greeting. Where the hell are you? Singapore. You actually left. I actually left. She's threatening to sue everyone. Me. You. The real estate agent. The moving company. The new homeowners. She called my office 16 times yesterday. Can she sue? For what? Everything was legal. You owned the house jointly. You sold it. You gave her exactly 50% of the proceeds. Her lawyer knows this. He's just letting her vent. She has a lawyer already? Oh yeah. Some guy from her family's firm. Very expensive, very aggressive, very aware that he doesn't actually have a case. Ethan rubbed his eyes. What does she want? To undo it. To reverse time. To have a conversation with you. Pick your poison. The first two aren't possible and the third isn't happening. That's what I told her lawyer. He's asking if you'll agree to mediation. No. Ethan, Robert, I gave her everything I owed her. I didn't hide assets. I didn't screw her over financially. The marriage is over. The papers are filed. There's nothing to mediate. Silence on the other end. Then, you're sure about this? I've never been more sure about anything. Okay? I'll tell him. But Ethan, she's not going to let this go quietly. You need to be prepared for that. Let her do whatever she needs to do. I'm done participating. He hung up before Robert could argue. Maya appeared in the doorway of her room, holding her elephant. Dad, I'm hungry. Right. Food, parenting, normal human activities. Let's order something, Ethan said, pulling up a delivery app he didn't know how to use. They ended up with noodles and dumplings from a place down the street, eating out of cardboard containers at the kitchen counter while Maya told him about all the things she wanted to do in Singapore. The zoo. The botanical gardens. Sentosa Island. She'd been researching on the plane, apparently, reading travel blogs on the in-flight Wi-Fi. Can we go to Universal Studios? She asked through a mouthful of noodles. Yeah, we can do that. And the night safari? Sure. And can I get a phone? All the kids at international school probably have phones. You're 7. Almost 8. Still no. She pouted but didn't push it. Smart kid. She knew when she'd hit the boundary. After dinner, she crashed hard, jet lag catching up with her all at once. Ethan tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and retreated to his own room. He should sleep. He was exhausted. His body felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. But his brain wouldn't shut off. He opened his laptop, pulled up his email, started going through the messages he'd been ignoring. Work stuff from James. Updates from the Singapore development team. Contract details. Design specs. Normal things. Professional things. And then, buried in the middle of the inbox, An email from Vivian's mother. Subject: disgraceful. He almost deleted it, should have deleted it, but morbid curiosity won out. Ethan, I always knew you weren't the right match for my daughter, but I never imagined you'd stoop to such cruelty. To abandon your wife while she was away, to sell her home out from under her, to leave her with nothing but a storage unit and a wire transfer. This is the behavior of a criminal, not a husband. Vivian is devastated. She made a mistake, yes, but mistakes can be forgiven. Marriage requires work, commitment, and maturity, qualities you've proven yourself incapable of. You may have signed papers and left the country, but this isn't over. My daughter deserves better than what you've done to her, and I will make sure she gets it. Constance Hart. Ethan read it twice. Then he replied, Constance, your daughter asked for space to find herself with a man she's been emotionally involved with for months. I gave her what she wanted. I also gave her exactly 50% of the equity in the house we own together, along with all of her personal belongings, carefully packed and stored. She didn't want a husband. She wanted a safety net. I'm nobody's second choice. The divorce will be final in a few months. Please direct all future communication to my attorney, Ethan. He hit send before he could second-guess the pettiness of it. Fuck maturity. Fuck taking the high road. Constance Hart had spent 3 years looking down on him at family dinners, making passive-aggressive comments about his background, his education, his income. She'd never missed an opportunity to remind him that he'd married up, that he should be grateful, that Vivian could have done better. Well, now Vivian could do better. She was free. They were all free. Ethan slammed the laptop shut and forced himself into bed. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams he wouldn't remember. The first week in Singapore passed in a blur of orientation meetings, school enrollment paperwork, and jet lag that wouldn't quit. Maya adapted faster than he did, throwing herself into the international school with the fearless enthusiasm of a kid who didn't know enough to be intimidated. She made friends within days, came home chattering about kids from 6 different countries, about lessons in Mandarin, about the weird cafeteria food that she actually kind of liked. Ethan, meanwhile, threw himself into work. The Horizon Development Project was massive, a mixed-use complex on reclaimed land near the waterfront. Residential towers, commercial space, a hotel, public parks, the kind of thing that could define a career. Richard Tan and his team were exacting, detail-oriented, demanding. They wanted innovative design grounded in practical execution. They wanted sustainability without sacrificing aesthetics. They wanted it done fast. Ethan delivered. He worked 12-hour days, sometimes 14, sketching, modeling, revising, video calls with James back in Seattle, presentations to the development team, site visits in the brutal afternoon heat, sweat soaking through his shirt before he'd been there 10 minutes. It was easier than thinking about what he'd left behind. At night, after Maya was asleep, he'd sit on the balcony with a beer and look out at the city lights reflecting off the harbor. Sometimes he'd pull out his phone and scroll through the blocked messages from Vivian that still came through in a separate folder. He never read them, just looked at the count, watched it climb. 40 messages, 60, 80. She wasn't giving up, but neither was he. 2 weeks in, James called with news. The firm's getting attention, James said, sounding slightly awed. Like serious attention. That tech magazine did a write-up on the Singapore project. We've had 3 inquiries from other developers in Asia, and someone from a firm in Dubai wants to talk. That's good, Ethan said. Good? It's incredible. This is what we've been working toward for 5 years. Yeah. You don't sound excited. I'm excited. I'm just tired. You're running yourself into the ground. I'm fine. Ethan. What? James sighed. Have you talked to her at all? No. Are you going to? Why would I? Because you were married for 3 years. Because she's clearly falling apart. Because maybe there's a conversation worth having. There's not. How do you know if you won't even... James, I love you, but stay out of this. Silence. Then, okay, fine. But for what it's worth, I think you're both being stubborn as hell. Noted. After he hung up, Ethan sat with that for a while. Stubborn. Maybe. But what was the alternative? Go back? Rehash the same fights? Watch her drift toward Marcus again the moment things got hard? No thanks. He'd made his choice. She'd made hers. This was just the aftermath. 3 weeks in, Vivian's messages stopped. For 2 days, nothing. No calls. No texts. No emails forwarded from Robert. It should have been a relief. It felt like waiting for the other shoe to drop. On day 3, Robert called. "She's agreed to the divorce terms," he said. Ethan sat up straighter. "What?" "She signed. Everything. The settlement, the custody agreement for Maya, well, the acknowledgement that she has no custody claim, the property division, all of it. Her lawyer sent it over this morning." "Just like that?" "Just like that." "What's the catch?" "No catch. She wants it done. She's moving on." Ethan didn't know what to feel. Relief. Suspicion. A weird, hollow disappointment that she'd given up so easily. "That's it then," he said. "That's it. Judge will sign off in about 60 days. You'll be officially divorced by the end of the year." "Okay." "Ethan, are you all right?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." "I'm processing." "Take your time. And hey, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It took guts. Or stupidity. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference." That night, Ethan took Maya out for ice cream at a place near their apartment. They sat on a bench overlooking the water, watching boats drift by, the city skyline glowing in the distance. "Dad?" Maya said, chocolate ice cream smeared on her chin. "Yeah?" "Are you sad about Vivian?" Honest question. Deserved an honest answer. "Sometimes," he said. "Do you miss her?" "I miss what I thought we had." "That's not the same thing." "No, it's not." She nodded, licking her cone. "I don't miss her. Is that bad?" "No, sweetheart. That's not bad. She wasn't very nice to me." "I know." "You're better without her." Ethan pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. "We're better, both of us." "Yeah," Maya said. "We are." A month in, Ethan started to feel something that wasn't numbness, not happiness, not yet, but something lighter, something that might eventually become okay. Work was going well. Better than well. The designs were coming together. The development team loved what he was doing. Richard Ton had already started talking about future projects, other opportunities in the region. Maya was thriving. Her teachers raved about her. She'd joined a soccer team, made a best friend named Priya, started asking if they could stay in Singapore longer than 6 months. "Maybe," Ethan told her. "We'll see." He started exploring the city on weekends. Hawker centers where you could eat like a king for $5. The botanical gardens where Maya dragged him through the orchid section and demanded to know the name of every flower. Sentosa Island, where they spent a day at the beach, and he actually, for a few hours, forgot to think about Seattle. He even went on a date. Sort of. A woman from the development team, Emily Chen, had invited him to a work dinner that turned into drinks, that turned into just the two of them talking at a bar until midnight. She was smart, funny, asked good questions. Didn't push when he said he'd recently gotten divorced. Just said, "That's rough," and changed the subject. They got coffee the next week, then dinner, then another dinner. It wasn't serious. It wasn't anything, really. Just two people enjoying each other's company without the weight of expectations. But it felt good. Normal. Like maybe he was allowed to have this. 2 months in, he finally unblocked Vivian's number. Not because he wanted to talk to her, just because the blocking felt petty and small, and he was trying not to be those things anymore. The messages that had been piling up flooded in all at once. He scrolled through them, watching the emotional trajectory and fast forward. Anger, grief, bargaining, acceptance. The final message was from 3 weeks ago. "I signed the papers. I'm not going to fight this anymore. You were right. I wanted space, and you gave it to me. I just didn't think it would be permanent. I'm sorry for a lot of things, but I'm not sorry you're free. You deserve better than what I gave you. Take care of Maya. Take care of yourself." Ethan read it twice, then he typed a reply. "I hope you find what you're looking for." He didn't hit send, just stared at it for a long time. Then he deleted it. Some conversations didn't need responses. He put the phone away and went to pick up Maya from school. 3 months in, the divorce was finalized. Robert sent the paperwork electronically. Ethan signed it in his office, witnessed by Richard Tan, who diplomatically said nothing about the fact that his lead architect was finalizing a divorce at 11 in the morning between design meetings. It was done. Official. Over. Ethan felt nothing, just a vague sense of closure, like finishing a book he'd stopped enjoying halfway through. That night, Emily came over for dinner. She'd been doing that sometimes, cooking with him in the tiny apartment kitchen, helping Maya with homework, staying late to watch movies after Maya went to bed. It still wasn't serious. They hadn't defined it, hadn't put labels on anything. But it was something. "You seem lighter," Emily said, curled up on the couch next to him. "Yeah? Yeah, like you're not carrying something heavy anymore." "I'm divorced as of this morning." She sat up. "Wait, really? Really? How do you feel?" "Honestly, I don't know." "That's okay. You don't have to know." "Everyone keeps asking me if I'm okay, if I'm sad, if I regret it." "Do you?" "Regret it? No. I regret the marriage. I regret not seeing the problems sooner. But leaving? No. That was right." Emily nodded. "For what it's worth, I think you made the brave choice." "Brave or stupid, still can't tell the difference." She laughed, kissed him. "Maybe it's both." Later, after she left, Ethan stood on the balcony looking out at the harbor. The same view he'd stared at for 3 months, but tonight it looked different, less foreign, more like home. His phone buzzed. A text from James. "Dubai deal is happening. They want you to fly out next month to talk design. This is huge." Ethan smiled. "Yeah." It was. 4 months in, Vivian sent one last email. He almost didn't open it, almost deleted it unread, but something made him click. "Ethan, I'm not writing to change your mind or to ask for another chance. I know that's not possible. I know I burned that bridge myself. I'm writing because I owe you an apology that's not wrapped up in excuses or self-pity. I was cruel to you. I was selfish. I took everything you gave me and made you feel like it wasn't enough. That's on me. Not on you. Marcus and I aren't together. We never were, not really. His wife found out about the emotional affair, because that's what it was, and gave him an ultimatum. He chose her, which is what he should have done, what I should have let him do years ago instead of keeping him on some pathetic back burner. I'm in therapy now, working through why I sabotage good things, why I couldn't let myself be happy with someone who actually loved me. It's not fun, but it's necessary. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I see it now. What I had, what I lost, what I threw away. You were right to leave. You were right about all of it. I hope Singapore is everything you wanted it to be. I hope Maya is happy. I hope you find someone who chooses you the way I couldn't." Vivian Ethan read it 3 times. Then he closed the laptop and didn't reply. Not out of anger, not out of spite, just because there was nothing left to say. She'd made her peace. He'd made his. And that was enough. 5 months in, Maya asked if they could stay in Singapore permanently. "I like it here," she said. "I like my school. I like my friends. I like our apartment. Can we stay?" Ethan looked at his daughter, who'd adapted to this massive change with more grace than he'd managed, and realized something. He liked it here too, the work, the city, the life they were building, the version of himself he was becoming. "Yeah," he said, "we can stay." Maya grinned and threw her arms around him. "Really? Really? What about your company in Seattle?" "James can run it. We'll open a satellite office here, make it official." "And Vivian?" "Vivian's in Seattle. We're here. That's how it should be." That weekend, he signed a 2-year lease on the apartment. Enrolled Maya in school for the next academic year. Started looking at permanent visa options. He wasn't running anymore. He was choosing. Emily met Maya officially that month. No more careful compartmentalization, no more keeping things separate. Just dinner at the apartment, the 3 of them, Maya grilling Emily with the intensity of a detective. "What's your favorite color?" "Blue." "What kind of blue?" "Like the ocean, deep blue." "Do you like kids?" "I like some kids. I'm pretty sure I like you." "Do you want to marry my dad?" "Maya!" Ethan nearly choked on his water. Emily laughed. "That's a very direct question." "Mom says direct is good." "Your mom's smart, but I think your dad and I are just friends right now. Is that okay?" Maya considered this. "I guess, but if you want to be more than friends later, that's okay too." "I'll keep that in mind." After Maya went to bed, Emily helped Ethan clean up the kitchen. "She's intense," Emily said. "She's protective." "Of you?" "Of both of us. She's been through a lot." "I know." Emily dried a plate, set it in the cabinet. "For the record, I'm not in a hurry." "For what?" "For whatever this becomes. I like where we are. No pressure, no expectations." Ethan kissed her. "That sounds perfect." And for the first time in longer than he could remember, it actually did. 6 months in, Ethan got a package from Seattle. No return address, just his name and the Singapore apartment address written in handwriting he recognized. Inside was a small wooden box. Inside the box, the wedding ring he'd left behind on the bathroom counter the day he'd moved out. And a note. "You forgot this. I thought you might want it back, or maybe you don't. Either way, it's yours. V." Ethan held the ring for a long time, feeling the weight of it, the memories attached to it. Then he put it in a drawer and closed it. Maybe someday he'd know what to do with it, but not today. Today, he had a meeting with the Dubai developers. He had dinner plans with Emily. He had Maya's soccer game to attend. He had a life. And for the first time since that night in the rain in Seattle, standing in a dying marriage and not knowing how to save it, Ethan Cole felt like he could breathe. The drawer stayed closed for 3 weeks before curiosity got the better of Maya. Ethan came home from a site meeting to find her sitting on his bed, the wooden box open in her lap, the ring gleaming in her small palm. "You kept it," she said, not looking up. Ethan set his laptop bag down. "I didn't keep it. Vivian sent it back." "But you didn't throw it away." "No." "Why not?" He sat down next to her, took the ring, turned it over in his fingers. It felt lighter than he remembered. Just metal. Just a thing. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe because throwing it away feels too final." "You're divorced. That's pretty final." "You're right." "So why keep it?" "Maya, I don't know. Why are you going through my stuff?" She had the decency to look sheepish. "I was looking for batteries, for my game controller." "In my dresser?" "I looked everywhere else first. He should probably be mad. Should probably give her the lecture about privacy and boundaries. But he was too tired, and she looked too worried." "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing." "Maya." She closed the box, set it aside. "Priya's parents are getting divorced." "Oh." "She's really sad about it. Her mom's moving back to India, and Priya has to choose who to live with." "That's rough." "Yeah." Maya picked at a thread on his comforter. "Is that what it was like for you? When you and Vivian split?" "No, it was different." "How?" "Well, for one, you were my kid, not hers. So there was nothing to choose. You stayed with me." "Did she want me?" The question hit harder than it should have. "I don't think she thought about it that way." "That's a no." "Maya." "It's okay, Dad. I told you I didn't like her either. I just wonder sometimes if something was wrong with me. If I wasn't good enough or—" "Stop." He pulled her close, held her tight. "Nothing was wrong with you. Nothing. You hear me? Vivian had her own issues, her own stuff she was dealing with. None of it had anything to do with you." "You promise?" "I promise." She nodded against his chest. "Okay. Okay." They sat there for a while, quiet, until Maya pulled away and wiped her eyes. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "Always. I like Emily." "Yeah? You interrogated her pretty hard at dinner." "I had to make sure she was good enough for you." Ethan laughed. "And what's the verdict?" "She's good? Not perfect, but good." "Nobody's perfect, kiddo." "You are." "I'm really not." "You're perfect for me." He kissed the top of her head. "Right back at you." That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan took the ring out again. Looked at it, really looked at it. Tried to remember what he'd felt the day he'd bought it. The hope. The certainty. The stupid, naive belief that love was enough. Then he put it back in the box, took the box to the kitchen, and dropped it in the trash. When Emily came over the next night, she found him staring at the garbage can like it might bite him. "You okay?" she asked. "I threw away my wedding ring." "Okay. I feel weird about it." "That's normal." "Is it?" She leaned against the counter, crossed her arms. "Ethan, you can feel however you feel. There's no rule book for this. I thought I'd feel relieved. And you don't? I feel like I threw away 3 years of my life. You didn't throw away 3 years. You lived them. You learned from them. Now you're moving on. Is that what I'm doing? I hope so. Because if you're still holding on to her, then you and I are wasting each other's time. The bluntness of it was almost refreshing. No games, no dancing around the subject. I'm not holding on to her, Ethan said. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. I just needed to say goodbye to it, I guess. The idea of it. Emily nodded. Then say goodbye and let it go. Just like that? Just like that. She made it sound so easy. Maybe it was. Maybe he was overcomplicating things the way he always did. You want to get dinner? He asked. I want to order in and watch something terrible on TV. Deal. They ordered Thai food, settled onto the couch, found some awful reality show about people renovating houses in exotic locations. Maya wandered out halfway through, claimed the spot between them, and fell asleep with her head on Emily's shoulder. Emily didn't move, didn't complain about the dead weight of a sleeping 7-year-old cutting off circulation to her arm. Just reached for the blanket on the back of the couch and draped it over Maya without waking her. Ethan watched them and felt something shift in his chest. Not love, not yet, but something close, something that could become love if he let it. Later, after he'd carried Maya to bed and come back to the living room, Emily was putting on her shoes. You don't have to leave, he said. I have an early meeting. Emily. She looked up. What? Stay. Ethan, we haven't... I know. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking you to stay. She studied him for a long moment. Then she took off her shoes. They fell asleep on the couch, her head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders, the TV playing some infomercial neither of them saw. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a movie moment, but it was real, and that was better. 7 months in, Seattle started to feel like a different lifetime. James came to visit, ostensibly to see the Singapore office set up, but really to check on Ethan. They met for lunch at a hawker center near the construction site, sitting on plastic stools, eating chicken rice that cost $3 and tasted better than anything Ethan had eaten back home. You look good, James said, pointing at him with chopsticks. Different. Different how? Lighter. Less like you're carrying the weight of the world. I just moved the weight to a different continent. Bullshit. You're happy. Admit it. Ethan considered lying, considered deflecting. But what was the point? Yeah, he said. I think I am. About damn time. James took a bite of rice, chewed thoughtfully. So what's the deal with Emily? What do you mean? Are you guys serious? Casual? What? We're figuring it out. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. You're impossible. I've been told. James laughed, then sobered. Hey, I need to tell you something. The shift in tone made Ethan look up. What? I saw Vivian last week at some fundraiser thing downtown. Ethan's stomach tightened. Okay. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That you were doing well, that the project was going great, that you were happy. And she looked like I'd kicked her. Then she said she was glad, that you deserved to be happy. Ethan didn't know what to do with that information. Didn't know if he believed it or if it was just more of Vivian's performative guilt. Did she look okay? He asked, surprising himself. Honestly? No, she looked thin, tired, sad. She's in therapy. You've talked to her? No, she sent an email a while back, said she was working through some stuff. James nodded slowly. You ever think about reaching out, just to, I don't know, clear the air? What's there to clear? She knows why I left. I know why she wanted me to. It's done. Yeah, but James, I'm not having this conversation. She made her choices. I made mine. We're both living with the consequences. That's how it works. Okay, I'm just saying maybe someday nothing. There's no someday. There's just now. And now, I'm here. She's there. And that's how it's going to stay. James raised his hands in surrender. All right, message received. They finished lunch talking about work, about the Dubai project, about the new hire James was bringing on board in Seattle. Normal things. safe things. But the conversation about Vivian sat in Ethan's gut for the rest of the day, heavy and uncomfortable. That night, he almost texted her, almost typed out a message asking if she was okay, almost let himself care, but he stopped himself. Because caring opened doors, and he'd spent 7 months learning how to keep those doors closed. 8 months in, the Dubai project fell through. The call came at 4 in the morning, Richard Tan's voice apologetic and frustrated. Funding issues. Political complications. Things outside anyone's control. The project was dead. Ethan hung up and stared at the ceiling, trying to process. This was supposed to be the next big thing, the career-defining opportunity, the proof that leaving Seattle had been the right move. And now it was gone. He didn't go back to sleep, just got up, made coffee, sat on the balcony watching the sun rise over the harbor. Maya found him there an hour later, still in his pajamas, on his 3rd cup of coffee. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks." "What's wrong?" "Work stuff. The Dubai thing isn't happening." "Oh." She climbed into the chair next to him. "Is that bad?" "It's not great." "Are we going to be okay?" "Yeah, kiddo, we're fine. Just disappointed." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." She was quiet for a minute, then, "Do we have to move back to Seattle?" The question caught him off guard. "Do you want to move back?" "No, I like it here." "Then we're not moving." "Even without Dubai?" "Even without Dubai." She nodded, satisfied. "Okay, can I have pancakes for breakfast?" "Sure." Crisis averted, at least in Maya's world. Ethan wished his own problems were that easily solved. Emily came over that night with wine and sympathy and zero patience for his self-pity. "So Dubai didn't work out," she said, pouring them both a glass. "Find another project." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because Dubai was huge. It was going to open doors all over the Middle East. Now I'm back to square one." "You're not at square one. You're in Singapore, running a successful firm, with a portfolio that speaks for itself. Dubai would have been great, but it's not the only opportunity in the world." "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy. It's just not the end of the world. You're catastrophizing." "I'm being realistic." "You're being dramatic." She took a sip of wine, leveled him with a look. "You left an entire country to start over. You rebuilt your life from scratch. And you're telling me one failed project is going to break you? Please." He wanted to argue, wanted to defend his right to wallow, but she was right, and they both knew it. "I hate when you make sense," he said. "I know. It's very annoying." "What would you do if you were me?" "I'd stop feeling sorry for myself and start looking for the next thing. The world's full of projects, full of opportunities. Dubai was one door. Find another one." Just like that. Just like that. She stayed over that night, in his bed for the first time. Nothing happened beyond sleep, but the intimacy of it felt bigger than sex would have. Waking up next to her. Morning breath and tangled hair and the comfortable silence of two people who didn't need to fill every moment with words. "This is nice," Emily said, her head on his chest. "Yeah, it is." "You gonna be okay?" "About Dubai?" "Yeah, I think so." "Good. Because I have very little tolerance for brooding." "Noted." She kissed him, got up, started getting ready for work. And Ethan lay there thinking about how different this was from his marriage. How Vivian would have used something like Dubai as ammunition. Proof that he was failing. Evidence that he'd made the wrong choice leaving her. But Emily just saw it as a setback. A disappointment. Not a referendum on his worth as a person. Maybe that was what healthy looked like. 9 months in, Ethan got a call from a developer in Kuala Lumpur. They'd seen his work on the Singapore project, wanted to talk about a resort development on the coast. Smaller than Dubai, but interesting, challenging. He took the meeting, then he took the project. It wasn't what he'd lost, but it was something, and something was enough. Work picked up. The Kuala Lumpur project moved forward. The Singapore development entered its final phase. James hired 2 more architects in Seattle, talked about opening a 3rd office, maybe in Tokyo, maybe in Sydney. The firm was growing, evolving, becoming more than Ethan had imagined when he'd started it 5 years ago in a cramped office above a coffee shop. Maya turned 8. They threw a party at the apartment, invited her whole class, ordered too much pizza. Emily helped with decorations, with games, with wrangling a dozen sugar-high kids through 3 hours of controlled chaos. Afterward, when the last parent had picked up their child and the apartment looked like a tornado had hit it, Maya hugged Emily hard. "Thanks for helping," Maya said. "Of course. Happy birthday, kiddo. Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are you going to marry my dad?" Emily glanced at Ethan, who was suddenly very interested in cleaning up pizza boxes. "I don't know what," Emily said honestly. "We haven't talked about it. But you like him, right?" "I like him a lot." "And you like me?" "I like you too." "Then why not?" "Because marriage is complicated, and your dad just got divorced, and we're taking things slow." "Slow is boring," Emily laughed. "Sometimes boring is good, I guess." Maya looked between them. "But if you did want to marry him, I'd be okay with it, just so you know." "I'll keep that in mind." After Maya went to bed, Emily and Ethan finished cleaning in silence. "Sorry about that," Ethan said finally. "Don't be. She's just being a kid. She's being a meddler. She loves you. She wants you to be happy." "I am happy." "Are you?" He stopped, looked at her. "Yeah, I am. Are you?" "Most of the time." "Most of the time?" Emily set down the trash bag she'd been filling. "Can I be honest with you? Please. I like what we have. I like you. I like Maya. I like this life you've built here. But sometimes I wonder if you're really ready for this. For us. Or if you're just filling a void." The words stung because they hit close to something Ethan had been trying not to examine too closely. "I'm not using you," he said. "I didn't say you were. I'm just saying you went from a marriage to me in less than a year. That's fast. So what do you want me to do? Take a break? Date other people?" "No, I just want you to be sure about this. About me. I am sure." "Are you? Because if we're going to keep doing this, if we're going to let Maya get attached, if we're going to build something real, I need to know you're all in. Not one foot out the door because you're still processing your divorce." "I'm not still processing. Ethan, you threw away your wedding ring 6 weeks ago. You got an email from your ex-wife 2 months ago and it threw you for days. You're still working through it, which is fine, but I need to know where I stand." He wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself, but she was asking fair questions, deserving honest answers. "I don't know what all in looks like anymore," he admitted. "I thought I did. With Vivian. I thought I was all in and it blew up in my face. So yeah, maybe I'm being cautious, maybe I'm protecting myself. But I'm not using you, I'm not filling a void, I'm trying to figure out how to do this right." Emily softened. "Okay. Okay. Okay. I can work with that. I just needed to hear you say it. I don't want to lose this, lose you." "Then don't." She kissed him, soft and brief. Then she went home. And Ethan spent the rest of the night thinking about what all in actually meant. 10 months in, Vivian sent another email. This one was shorter, less apologetic, more matter of fact. "I'm seeing someone. Thought you should know. Not Marcus. Someone I met through work. He's kind, stable, everything I should have wanted from the beginning. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because I want you to know I'm trying, that I'm not just wallowing in what I lost. I hope you're doing well. I mean that." Ethan read it twice. Felt nothing. No jealousy, no anger, no sadness. Just a vague sense of relief that she was moving on too. He didn't respond. Didn't feel the need to. But he did call Emily and ask if she wanted to come over for dinner. And when she said yes, when she showed up with wine and a smile. When they cooked together and ate together and fell asleep on the couch together, he thought maybe this was what all in looked like. Not perfect, not without fear, just choosing to show up, choosing to try, choosing to believe that maybe, this time, it could work. 11 months in, the Kuala Lumpur project broke ground. Ethan flew out for the ceremony, gave a speech he'd written on the plane, shook hands with people whose names he immediately forgot. Richard Tan was there, beaming like a proud father. "You've come a long way from that first meeting." "Yeah, I guess I have." "Singapore suits you." "It does." "You thinking about staying? Long term?" "Yeah, I think so." "Good, because I have 3 more projects I want to talk to you about." They talked over dinner, hotels, office buildings. A cultural center that would take 5 years to complete. Big things? Career-defining things. The kind of opportunities Ethan had dreamed about when he was working 3 jobs and barely making rent. He flew back to Singapore the next day, walked into the apartment to find Maya doing homework at the kitchen table and Emily making stir-fry. "You're home," Maya said, not looking up from her math worksheet. "I'm home." "How was the thing?" "Good. Really good." Emily turned from the stove. "Yeah?" "Yeah. Richard offered me 3 more projects." "That's amazing." "It is." He set his bag down, looked around at the life he'd built. The apartment that finally felt like home. The kid who was thriving. The woman who'd somehow become essential without him noticing when it happened. "I think I'm going to stay," he said. "Here, in Singapore, permanently." Maya looked up. "Really?" "Really." She whooped, jumped up, threw her arms around him. "Yes! I told Priya we were staying. She didn't believe me." Emily smiled. "You sure about this?" "I'm sure." "No second thoughts? No what-ifs?" "No, this is where I want to be, where we want to be." She crossed the kitchen, kissed him. "Then I'm glad you're staying." "Yeah?" "Yeah." That night, after Maya was asleep, after dinner was eaten and dishes were done, Ethan and Emily sat on the balcony looking out at the city. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said. "Sure." "What happened with your ex-wife?" "Really happened." He'd avoided this conversation for months, dodged questions, given vague answers. But Emily deserved better than that. So he told her. All of it. The slow decay of the marriage, Vivian's emotional affair, the week in Tahoe, the decision to burn it all down and start over. Emily listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Do you regret it?" she asked finally. "Leaving? No." "How you left?" That was harder to answer. Sometimes it was brutal. She came home to nothing. I could have handled it differently. You could have. But would she have let you go if you had? Probably not. Then you did what you had to do. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong either. You protected yourself. You protected Maya. That matters. I hurt her. A lot. She hurt you first. That's not how it works. Isn't it? Emily turned to face him. Ethan, you can't carry guilt for ending something that was already dead. She made her choices. You made yours. The fact that yours were more decisive doesn't make them cruel. You didn't see her face. In that last email, the one where she told me about Marcus choosing his wife, she was destroyed. Good. He blinked. Good? Yeah, good. She needed to feel the consequences of her actions. She needed to understand that people aren't just going to wait around while she figures out what she wants. That's called growing up. It sucks, but it's necessary. That's harsh. Life is harsh. You know that better than anyone. He did. He really did. Thank you, he said. For what? For not letting me romanticize the past. For keeping me here. In the present. Someone has to. She leaned against him, and they sat there in the warm Singapore night, watching boats cross the harbor, the city glowing in every direction. And Ethan thought about Seattle, about the penthouse that was someone else's home now, about the marriage that had felt like drowning, about the woman who'd wanted space and gotten exactly what she asked for. He didn't miss it, any of it. This was better. This was real. And for the first time since that rainy night when everything fell apart, Ethan Cole felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The feeling didn't last. 3 days later, Ethan's phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number, Seattle area code. He almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail and rolled back over to sleep. But something made him pick up. Hello? Ethan Cole? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Yeah, who is this? My name is Dr. Sarah Winters. I'm calling from Seattle General Hospital. I have you listed as an emergency contact for Vivian Hart. His stomach dropped. He sat up, suddenly wide awake. What happened? Ms. Hart was admitted tonight. She's stable, but we needed to notify family. Are you still her husband? Ex-husband. We've been divorced for 4 months. Why do you have me as her contact? I'm not sure. It's what's in our system. Is there someone else we should call? Her mother, Constance Hart. She lives in Seattle. We've tried that number. No answer. Of course. Constance probably had her phone on silent, sleeping soundly in her mansion, completely unaware that her daughter was in a hospital at 2 in the morning. What happened to her? Ethan asked. I can't give details over the phone to a non-spouse, but if you could help us reach her next of kin, we'd appreciate it. Is she okay? A pause. She's stable. That's all I can tell you. I'm in Singapore. I can't exactly. I understand. We just need to reach someone local. He hung up and stared at the phone. Vivian was in the hospital. Stable, whatever that meant, could mean anything from a car accident to a suicide attempt to food poisoning. He should call Constance. He should find a way to get through to her. He should do something. Instead, he sat there in the dark, Emily sleeping next to him, and tried to figure out why his hands were shaking. He didn't love Vivian anymore. Hadn't loved her in over a year, if he was being honest with himself. But the idea of her hurt, of her alone in a hospital, of her having him listed as her emergency contact even after everything, it hollowed him out. Emily stirred. What's wrong? Nothing. Go back to sleep. Ethan? It's nothing. Just a work thing. She sat up, turned on the bedside lamp. You're a terrible liar. What happened? He told her, kept it brief. Clinical. Just the facts. Emily listened, then reached for her phone. What's her mother's number? Why? Because you're not going to be able to sleep until you know she's okay. So we're going to find out. She tried Constance's number. No answer. Then she pulled up Facebook, found Constance's page, sent a direct message. This is Emily Chen, a friend of Ethan Cole's. Seattle General Hospital has been trying to reach you about your daughter. Please call them immediately. That's all we can do, Emily said, putting her phone down. I should call the hospital back, get more information. They won't tell you anything. I know, but Ethan, she's not your responsibility anymore. I know that. Do you? He didn't answer, couldn't answer, because the truth was complicated and messy, and he didn't know how to explain it. Emily softened. I'm not saying you can't care, I'm saying you can't fix this. Whatever happened, whatever she's dealing with, you're not the one who can help her. Then who can? Her family, her friends, her therapist, anyone but the ex-husband she hasn't spoken to in months. She was right. Of course she was right. But it didn't stop him from lying awake until dawn, phone in hand, waiting for news that never came. By morning, Constance had responded to Emily's message with a curt thank you. No explanation, no update, just acknowledgement. Ethan tried to focus on work, had meetings, reviewed designs, answered emails, went through the motions of being a functional human being. But his mind kept drifting back to Seattle, to a hospital room he couldn't picture, to a woman he'd once promised to love forever. 2 days passed, then 3. No more calls from the hospital, no messages from Constance, nothing. On day 4, James texted him. Did you hear about Vivian? Ethan called immediately. What do you know? Relax, she's fine. Well, not fine, but she's out of the hospital. What happened? Apparently she collapsed at some charity thing. Dehydration, exhaustion, something like that. They kept her overnight for observation. That's it? That's what I heard? Why? You know something different? No, the hospital called me. Middle of the night, said she was admitted. Wouldn't tell me anything else. They called you? I'm still her emergency contact, apparently. James whistled. That's awkward. Yeah. You okay? I don't know. It threw me. You want me to find out more? I can ask around. No, don't. If she wanted me to know, she'd tell me. Fair enough. But hey, she's fine, so you can stop worrying. I'm not worried. Sure you're not. After he hung up, Ethan sat at his desk staring at nothing, dehydration and exhaustion. That could mean anything. Could mean she was working too hard. Could mean she wasn't taking care of herself. Could mean she was spiraling. Not your problem, he told himself. Not your responsibility. But the guilt sat heavy anyway. That night he almost emailed her. Almost typed out, I heard you were in the hospital. Are you okay? Almost hit send. But Emily's voice echoed in his head. She's not your responsibility anymore. So he deleted the draft and went to bed. A week later, Vivian emailed him first. I know the hospital called you. I'm sorry about that. I forgot to update my emergency contacts after the divorce. It won't happen again. I'm fine, in case you were wondering. Just overdid it. Working too much. Not sleeping enough. The usual self-destructive patterns I'm supposed to be working on in therapy, but apparently haven't mastered yet. Anyway, I wanted to let you know I'm okay, and to apologize for dragging you into my mess again. Ethan read it 3 times. Then he replied, "Glad you're okay. Take care of yourself." Short, distant. Exactly what it needed to be. Her response came an hour later. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" He stared at the message. What did she want from him? Concern? Anger? A lecture about taking better care of herself? "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Something. Anything. It's been a year since you left and we've barely spoken. Don't you think we should at least try to what? Talk. Have a conversation. Clear the air. The air is clear. You wanted space. I gave it to you. We're both moving on. That's how this works." "Is it? Because it feels like we're just avoiding each other. We live on opposite sides of the world. Avoiding each other isn't exactly hard. You know what I mean." He did, but he didn't want to acknowledge it. "What do you want, Vivian?" The response took longer this time. "I don't know. I just feel like we left things unfinished. Like there are conversations we should have had but didn't. We had plenty of conversations. Most of them ended in fights. I know. But maybe we could try again. Without the anger, without the hurt. Just 2 people who used to care about each other, trying to understand what went wrong. I know what went wrong. You weren't happy. I couldn't make you happy. We got married too fast and realized too late we wanted different things. End of story. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You're the one making it complicated. Fine. You want simple? I miss you. Not the marriage, not the life we had. Just you. The person you were before everything fell apart." Ethan stared at the screen, his heart pounding. "Don't do this. Do what? Rewrite history, romanticize what we had. It wasn't good, Viv. It was broken. We were broken." "I know, but that doesn't mean I don't miss the parts that were good. There's someone else in my life now, someone who makes me happy. I'm not going to mess that up by dwelling on a relationship that ended for very good reasons. I know about Emily. I'm happy for you. I really am. I'm not trying to get you back. I'm just trying to make peace with what happened. Then make peace with it and move on. I'm trying. But it's hard when you won't even talk to me. We're talking right now. You know what I mean." He did. But he didn't care. "I have to go. Maya has a soccer game." "Okay, take care, Ethan." He closed the laptop and didn't respond. Emily found him on the balcony 20 minutes later, beer in hand, staring at nothing. "What happened?" she asked. "Vivian wants to talk, like really talk. Process everything, make peace with it. And you don't want to." "I don't see the point. There might not be one. But she's asking." "So? So maybe you should consider it." He looked at her, surprised. "I thought you'd be against it." "I'm against you carrying this guilt around like a backpack full of rocks. If talking to her helps you put it down, then talk to her. It won't help." "How do you know?" "Because there's nothing left to say. The marriage is over. We've both moved on. Rehashing it just opens old wounds. Or it closes them." "You really think that?" She sat down next to him. "I think you're still holding on to something. I don't know if it's guilt or regret or unfinished business. But it's there. And maybe talking to her is the only way to let it go. What if it makes things worse? What if it makes things better?" He didn't have an answer for that. That night, he lay awake thinking about Vivian's email, about the parts that were good, about the version of her he'd fallen in love with 3 years ago at that gallery opening. She'd been different then. Or maybe he'd been different. Maybe they'd both been playing roles, trying to be what the other person wanted, never quite managing to be themselves. By morning, he'd made a decision. He emailed her back. "Okay, let's talk. But not over email and not on the phone. If we're going to do this, let's do it right." "What do you mean?" "I'll be in Seattle next month for a meeting with James. We can meet then." "Coffee?" 1 hour. "That's it." "Okay. Thank you. Don't thank me yet." He told Emily that night over dinner. She took it better than he expected. "When?" 3 weeks. I'll be there for 2 days, meeting with her on the second day. You nervous? Yeah. Good. You should be. That's comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to keep you honest. She reached across the table, took his hand. Just remember why you left. Remember what she put you through. Don't let her rewrite that story. I won't. And don't let her guilt you into anything. I won't. And if it gets too heavy, if it feels like it's dragging you backward, you walk away. You don't owe her closure if it costs you your peace. I know. Do you? Yes, Emily, I know. She squeezed his hand. Okay, then go. Talk to her. Get whatever this is out of your system, and then come home. Singapore's home now, isn't it? He thought about that. The apartment. The city. The life he'd built. The woman sitting across from him who'd somehow become the person he turned to when everything felt too heavy. Yeah, he said. It is. The 3 weeks passed faster than he wanted them to. Work consumed most of his time. The Kuala Lumpur project hit a snag with permits. The Singapore development needed design revisions. James needed him to sign off on the Tokyo office plans. Maya's school had parent-teacher conferences. Emily's mother came to visit from Taiwan, a whirlwind of opinions and cooking and thinly veiled questions about when they were getting married. She means well, Emily said after her mother left. She asked me 3 times if I was serious about you. What did you tell her? That I was very serious. And she asked if that meant a ring was coming soon. Emily laughed. What did you say to that? I said I'd just gotten divorced and maybe we could slow down. How'd she take it? She told me I was getting too old to waste time. Sounds like her. Is she right? Am I wasting time? Emily looked at him, really looked at him. Are you asking me if I want to get married? I'm asking if you think about it. Sometimes, but I'm not in a hurry. I like where we are. Even though we're not engaged, not living together, not official, we're official enough. We're building something real. That matters more than a ring. You sure? I'm sure. Are you? Yeah, I think so. You think so? I know so. I'm just nervous about Seattle, about seeing her, about what happens if it goes badly. Then it goes badly. You come home. We move on. Life continues. You make it sound simple. It is simple. You're the one making it complicated. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was overthinking it. Maybe the coffee meeting would be fine. Uncomfortable, but fine. Civil, but distant. Exactly what it needed to be. Or maybe it would blow up in his face. The flight to Seattle felt longer than the flight to Singapore had a year ago. Ethan spent most of it staring out the window, watching clouds drift by, trying to prepare himself for whatever was coming. James picked him up from the airport. You look like hell. Thanks. Seriously, when's the last time you slept? On the plane. You're a terrible liar. They drove to the office, talked business for a few hours. James had done well in Ethan's absence. The Seattle office was thriving. 3 new projects, 2 new hires, a waiting list of clients who wanted their particular brand of sustainable modern design. You should come back, James said over lunch. Not full-time, but more than once a year. I'll think about it. The team misses you. I miss you. I miss you too. But my life is in Singapore now. I know. Doesn't mean I can't try to guilt you into visiting more often. That evening, Ethan checked into a hotel downtown. Not the penthouse he'd once shared with Vivian, not even the same neighborhood. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere that didn't carry ghosts. He texted Emily. Made it. Meeting with her tomorrow at 10. Good luck. Remember what I said. I will. I love you. He stared at the message. She'd never said that before. Not directly. Not like this. I love you too. Good. Don't forget it tomorrow. He wouldn't. He couldn't. That night, he barely slept, just lay in the hotel bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a city that used to be home and wasn't anymore. Morning came too fast. He showered, dressed, drank too much coffee, and walked to the cafe Vivian had suggested. A place neither of them had been to before. Neutral ground. She was already there when he arrived, sitting at a corner table, hands wrapped around a mug, staring out the window. She looked different, thinner, like James had said. Her hair was shorter. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. She saw him and stood up. For a second, he thought she might hug him, but she didn't, just gave a small, uncertain smile. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They sat down. The silence stretched between them, awkward and heavy. "You look good," Vivian said finally. "Different, but good." "Thanks. You look terrible." "I know. I've been told." "I was going to say tired." "Same thing." She took a sip of her coffee. "Thanks for coming. I know you didn't have to." "Yeah, I did." "Why?" "Because you asked, and because Emily thought it might help." "Emily's smart." "She is." More silence. Ethan ordered coffee he didn't want, just to have something to do with his hands. "So," Vivian said, "where do we start?" "I don't know. This was your idea." "Right." She took a breath. "I've been in therapy, real therapy, twice a week, working through a lot of things." "That's good." "One of the things I've been working on is accountability, understanding my role in what happened with us, not making excuses, not blaming you." "Okay? So I want to say this clearly. I'm sorry for all of it, for Marcus, for taking you for granted, for making you feel like you weren't enough when the truth is I was the one who wasn't enough. Not for you, for myself." Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd imagined this conversation 100 times, imagined her apologizing, imagined feeling vindicated, satisfied, justified. But all he felt was sad. "I appreciate that," he said. But I don't know what you want me to do with it." "Nothing. I just needed you to hear it." "Okay, I heard it." She looked down at her coffee. "My therapist said I use people as mirrors, that I don't know who I am unless someone's reflecting back what I want to see. With you, I wanted to see someone stable, grounded, safe. But then I resented you for being those things because they made me feel chaotic in comparison. That's not my fault. I know, that's the point. None of it was your fault. It was mine. All mine." "That's not true either. I wasn't perfect." "You were pretty damn close." "I wasn't. I worked too much. I was distant. I didn't fight for us when things got hard." "You couldn't fight for both of us, Ethan. I made sure of that." He wanted to argue, wanted to shoulder some of the blame, but the truth was she was right. "Where's this going?" he asked. "The apology, the therapy talk. What do you want from me? Forgiveness, maybe. Or just understanding. I don't know." She looked up at him, eyes red. "I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. And I just need you to know that I know that." "You didn't destroy me, Viv. I'm fine." "I know. I saw the photos on James's Instagram. You and Emily, you and Maya. You look happy." "I am happy." "Good. You deserve that." The words should have felt generous. Instead, they felt like glass. "What about you?" he asked. "James said you're seeing someone." "I was. Didn't work out. Turns out I'm not great at relationships when I actually have to work at them." "You'll figure it out." "Will I? Because I'm 31 years old and I'm starting to think I'm fundamentally broken." "You're not broken. You're just—" He stopped. This wasn't his job anymore. Wasn't his place. "What?" "Nothing." "Say it." "You're just still figuring out who you are without someone else defining it for you." She smiled, sad and small. "See? That's what I miss. You always knew what to say." "Not always. More than you think." They sat there for a while, drinking coffee, watching the city move past the windows. It felt surreal. Sitting across from the woman he'd married, the woman he'd divorced, feeling nothing but a vague sense of melancholy. "Do you hate me?" Vivian asked suddenly. "No." "Do you wish you'd never met me?" "No." "Do you think about me?" "Sometimes. Not like you probably think." "How then?" "Like someone I used to know. Someone who taught me things I needed to learn, but not someone I want back in my life." She nodded, blinking fast. "That's fair." "Vivian?" "No, it's fine. It's good, actually. Clear, honest. That's what we needed." His phone buzzed, a text from Emily. "How's it going?" "Fine. Almost done. Come home soon, I will." "You should go," Vivian said, watching him. "She's waiting for you." "We still have time." "No, I think we're done. I said what I needed to say. You heard it. That's enough." She stood up. So did he. They faced each other in the crowded cafe, two people who used to share a life, now sharing nothing but history. Take care of yourself, Ethan said. You too. And Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for coming, for listening, for not being cruel. I was never trying to be cruel. I know, that almost made it worse. She left before he could respond, just walked out into the Seattle rain, pulled her coat tight, and disappeared into the crowd. Ethan sat back down, finished his coffee, and tried to figure out what he felt. Relief, mostly. That it was done. That he'd faced it. That he could finally, truly, let it go. He texted Emily. Heading to the airport. See you tomorrow. How did it go? Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. But it's over. Good. I'll pick you up from Changi. You don't have to. I want to. He flew home that night, landed in Singapore 18 hours later, exhausted and wrung out and ready to be done with Seattle for a good long while. Emily was waiting at arrivals, exactly like she'd promised. She hugged him hard. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I think I am. Really? Really? They drove home through morning traffic, the city waking up around them, familiar and foreign all at once. What happens now? Emily asked. Now I stop looking backward. Now I focus on this. On us. On the life we're building. You sure? I'm sure. And for the first time in a long time, he meant it. The weeks after Seattle felt different. Lighter, somehow. Like Ethan had been carrying a weight he hadn't fully acknowledged until it was gone. He threw himself back into work with a clarity that had been missing before. The Kuala Lumpur project moved into construction. Richard Tan brought him 2 more developments, both ambitious, both exactly the kind of challenge Ethan thrived on. But the real shift was quieter, more personal. He stopped checking his email compulsively, expecting messages that never came. Stopped comparing Emily to Vivian in small, unconscious ways. Stopped second-guessing every decision like it might blow up in his face the way his marriage had. For the first time since that rainy night in Seattle 18 months ago, Ethan felt like he was living his life instead of recovering from it. Emily noticed. You're different, she said one Saturday morning, watching him make breakfast while Maya did cartwheels in the living room. Different how? Present, like you're actually here instead of halfway somewhere else. I am here. I know. It's nice. She kissed him, grabbed the toast he'd burned only slightly, and went to stop Maya from knocking over a lamp. That afternoon, they took Maya to the zoo. Not because there was any special occasion, just because it was Saturday and the weather was good and they could. Maya dragged them through every exhibit, narrating facts about animals she'd learned in school, asking 1,000 questions neither of them could answer. Dad, why do elephants have trunks? Evolution. That's not an answer. It's the best one I've got, Emily laughed. Your dad's useless with animal facts. I'm very useful with other things. Like what? Like building design, and parallel parking, and making mediocre pancakes. Maya rolled her eyes, already moving on to the next exhibit. But she grabbed both their hands as they walked, swinging between them, chattering about the penguin feeding they were about to watch. Ethan looked at Emily over Maya's head. She smiled at him. And something clicked into place that he hadn't known was misaligned. This was it. This was what he'd been looking for without knowing how to name it. Not perfection, not some fantasy of what a family should be. Just this. 3 people who chose each other, who showed up for each other, who made it work even when it was messy. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan found Emily on the balcony with a glass of wine, looking out at the harbor. Can I ask you something? He said. Always. How do you do it? Do what? Not need guarantees, not need to know where this is going. You're so calm about everything. She turned to look at him. You think I'm calm? Aren't you? I'm terrified half the time. Of what? That you're going to wake up one day and realize you're not over your ex-wife. That I'm just a rebound who stuck around too long. That Singapore was never about building a new life. It was about running away from your old one. The honesty of it gutted him. Emily, but I stay anyway. Because being terrified and being with you feels better than being safe and being alone. I'm not going to wake up and realize anything. I'm here. I chose this. I chose you. I know. Logically, I know. But hearts aren't logical. No, they're not. He pulled her close, felt her relax against him. I love you, he said. I know I don't say it enough, but I do, and I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. She kissed him, soft and long and full of all the things neither of them knew how to say out loud. I want to meet your family, Ethan said suddenly. Emily pulled back. What? Your family. In Taiwan. You've met Maya. You've built a relationship with her. I want to do the same with your people. My mother already met you. For 3 days, while she interrogated me about my intentions. I want to actually meet them, know them, show them I'm serious about this. You hate flying. I'll deal with it. My family's intense, loud, opinionated. My grandmother will ask why we're not married yet. Then I'll tell her we're working on it. Emily's eyes widened. Are we? I don't know, maybe. Do you want to be? Are you asking me to marry you right now, on the balcony, without a ring, after talking about your ex-wife's trust issues? No, I'm asking if marriage is something you want, someday, with me. She was quiet for a long moment, then, yeah, it is. Okay then. Okay then? We'll figure out the rest as we go. You're impossible. You like it. Unfortunately, I do. They flew to Taiwan 3 weeks later. Ethan, Emily, and Maya cramped into economy seats on a 4-hour flight that felt like 20. Maya spent most of it watching movies on the seatback screen. Ethan spent most of it trying not to think about the last family he'd tried to integrate into. Vivian's family had tolerated him at best. Constance had made it clear from day one that he wasn't good enough for her daughter. Vivian's father, before he died, had been polite but distant. Her siblings had treated him like hired help at family gatherings. He told himself it didn't matter, that Vivian loved him, and that was enough. But it had mattered, more than he'd admitted. Emily's family was different. They met them at the airport. Emily's mother, her father, 2 younger brothers, an aunt, and the grandmother who'd been promised. They descended like a friendly hurricane, hugging Emily, inspecting Ethan, cooing over Maya in rapid Mandarin that none of them understood. They like you, Emily translated. My mom says you look trustworthy. That's good. It's very good. She thought my last boyfriend looked shifty. Did he? Extremely. The week in Taiwan was chaos. Family dinners that lasted 4 hours. Cousins appearing out of nowhere. Emily's grandmother pulling Ethan aside to ask, through Emily's translation, when he was going to make an honest woman out of her granddaughter. Soon, he said, not entirely sure what he was promising. The grandmother nodded, satisfied. Then she gave him a hard candy and patted his cheek like he was 5 years old. Maya thrived in the madness. She didn't speak the language, but she didn't seem to care. Emily's brothers taught her to play mahjong. Her aunt taught her to fold dumplings. Her grandfather, a quiet man who spoke almost no English, taught her to play Chinese chess through pure demonstration and patience. She fits here, Emily said, watching Maya lose spectacularly at chess, while Emily's grandfather pretended not to let her win. She fits everywhere, Ethan said. That's her superpower. What's yours? Apparently marrying women who terrify me. Emily laughed. I terrify you? In the best way. Good. You should be a little scared. Keeps you honest. On their last night, Emily's father pulled Ethan aside. His English was better than he'd let on, careful and precise. You take care of my daughter, he said. Not a question, a statement. I will. She's strong, but she's also soft, you understand? I do. Good. You heard her. I come to Singapore. Understood. The old man nodded, handed him a beer, and they stood in companionable silence, watching the rest of the family play cards. Flying back to Singapore felt like coming home. The city rose up beneath them as they descended, glittering and sprawling and familiar in a way Seattle never had been. What do you think? Emily asked as they collected their bags. About what? Taiwan, my family, all of it. I think your grandmother's right. We should get married. Emily stopped walking. What? I'm serious. Not today, not this week, but soon, soonish, when it feels right. Ethan Cole, are you proposing to me in the baggage claim at Changi Airport? No, I'm telling you I'm going to propose. Eventually. When I have a ring and a plan and something better than fluorescent lighting. I don't need a plan. I do. I need to do this right. You already are. Maya appeared with her backpack, oblivious to the moment. Can we get McDonald's? I'm starving. Yeah, kiddo, we can get McDonald's. They ate fries in the food court, jet-lagged and exhausted and happy. And Ethan thought about how strange it was that life could fall apart so completely and then reassemble into something better. Not perfect, not without scars, but better. 2 months later, James called with news that knocked Ethan sideways. You sitting down? James asked. Should I be? Vivian's engaged. Ethan almost dropped his phone. What? Yeah, it's all over social media. Some guy named Derek something. Lawyer, family money, very respectable. When? I don't know, recently, I guess. She posted about it this morning. Ethan pulled up Instagram, something he rarely did anymore. There it was. Vivian's feed, usually carefully curated photos of charity events and sunsets, now featuring a massive diamond ring and a caption about finding love when you stop looking for it. The guy in the photos looked exactly like what Constance would have picked out of a catalog. Handsome in a boring way, successful in a conventional way, safe. Everything Ethan had never been. You okay? James asked. Yeah, I'm fine. You sure? Because it's okay if you're not. I'm sure. Good for her. I mean it. And the weird thing was, he did. There was no jealousy, no anger, no sense of loss, just a vague relief that Vivian had found something that made her happy, that she'd stopped using other people as mirrors and maybe, finally, learned to see herself clearly. He showed Emily the post that night. How do you feel? She asked. Honestly? Nothing. Nothing? Nothing. Like seeing news about someone I used to work with. Glad things are going well for them, but it doesn't affect my life. That's very healthy. Is it? Yeah, it means you've actually moved on. Have you? Moved on from your exes? Completely. My last boyfriend was a nightmare. The one before that was boring. The one before that was gay and hadn't figured it out yet. That sounds complicated. It was, but it taught me what I didn't want, so when I met you, I knew. Knew what? That you were different, that you were worth the risk. Even though I was a mess? Everyone's a mess. You were just honest about it. He kissed her. I'm going to propose to you soon. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it. Then do it already. I'm working on it. Work faster. He did. 3 weeks later, he took Maya ring shopping. She was 9 now, opinionated and confident, and not at all impressed by the jewelry store's attempts to seem fancy. That one's too big, she said, pointing at a 3-carat monstrosity. Noted. That one's boring. Also noted. That one's perfect. She pointed at a simple platinum band with a single diamond. Elegant without being showy. Classic without being boring. You think? Ethan asked. I know. Emily doesn't like flashy stuff. She likes things that are real. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just haven't been paying attention. The saleswoman smiled. She's got good taste. She gets it from me, Maya said, completely serious. They bought the ring. Ethan had it sized, picked it up a week later, and spent the next month trying to figure out how to actually propose. He considered elaborate plans. A trip somewhere romantic, a staged event, some grand gesture that would make a good story. But every time he tried to plan something big, it felt wrong, too performative, too much like he was trying to prove something. In the end, the moment found him. They were at home, just the 3 of them, eating takeout on the living room floor because the dining table was covered in Maya's art project. Some epic poster board situation about ocean conservation that had taken over the entire apartment. Emily was laughing at something Maya had said, chopsticks in hand, hair falling out of its ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup. She had paint on her shirt from helping with the poster. She looked tired and happy and entirely herself. And Ethan thought, this is it. This is the moment. He got up, went to the bedroom, grabbed the ring box from its hiding spot in his sock drawer. When he came back, Emily looked up. You okay? Yeah. He sat down next to her. I need to ask you something. Okay? Maya's eyes went wide. Oh my gosh, is this happening? Maya, shush. But Dad? Maya, She mimed zipping her lips but was practically vibrating with excitement. Ethan turned to Emily, who was looking at him with a mixture of confusion and dawning realization. I had this whole thing planned, he said, something romantic. But I realized that's not us. We're not grand gestures and fancy restaurants. We're this, sitting on the floor eating dumplings while an ocean conservation poster takes over our apartment. Ethan, let me finish. I spent 3 years in a marriage where I was always trying to be enough, where I felt like I was auditioning for a role I'd never quite get. And then I met you, and you just let me be myself, messy and flawed and still figuring it out. You didn't need me to be perfect. You just needed me to be present. Emily's eyes were welling up. Stop. You're going to make me cry. Good. I'm trying to. He opened the ring box. Marry me. Not because it's the next logical step, not because we should, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because you chose me when I was broken, and you stayed when I was healing, and you made me believe I could be happy again. Yes, Emily said, barely a whisper. Yes. Yes, you idiot. Yes. Maya shrieked, actually shrieked. Then she launched herself at both of them, and they fell backward onto the floor in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Ethan slipped the ring on Emily's finger. It fit perfectly. Maya picked it out, he said. Of course she did. Emily pulled Maya close. You have excellent taste. I told him that. They stayed there on the floor for a long time, the three of them, the takeout getting cold, the poster board forgotten. And Ethan felt something settle in his chest, not the desperate relief of escape, not the fragile hope of new beginnings, just quiet, solid certainty. This was his family. This was his life. And it was exactly what he'd needed all along. The wedding was small, immediate family only. Emily's relatives flew in from Taiwan. James came from Seattle with his wife. Maya served as maid of honor and took the job so seriously she made a binder with schedules and contingency plans. She's 9, Emily said, flipping through the binder. How does she know what a contingency plan is? She watches a lot of YouTube, Ethan said. They got married in the botanical gardens on a Saturday morning. No drama, no chaos. Just two people making promises they intended to keep, surrounded by people who actually cared about them. Emily's grandmother cried through the entire ceremony. Maya cried during the vows, but insisted she had something in her eye. James gave a speech that was mostly jokes about how Ethan used to be completely useless at relationships. And now look at him, James said, raising his glass. Still useless, but Emily seems to like him anyway. Everyone laughed. Ethan flipped him off. Emily kissed his cheek and whispered, He's not wrong. That night, after the reception, after Maya had been dropped off at Emily's parents' hotel room for a sleepover, Ethan and Emily stood on their balcony looking out at the city. We did it, Emily said. We did. How do you feel? Married. That's it? Happy. Relieved. Grateful. Pick an adjective. She leaned against him. No regrets? About what? Leaving Seattle, burning it all down, starting over. He thought about it, really thought about it, about the life he'd left behind, the marriage that had imploded, the version of himself that had existed before Singapore. No regrets, he said. Not anymore. Not even a little? Not even a little. Everything that happened led me here, to you, to this. I wouldn't change it. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. They taught me what I needed to know, which is that you can't make someone choose you, that love isn't about trying harder or being better or fixing yourself into someone else's ideal. It's about finding someone who sees who you actually are and wants that person, not some version of them, just them. Emily turned to face him. That's very profound for someone who's had 4 glasses of champagne. I'm a profound drunk. Clearly. She kissed him. And somewhere in the city below, life continued. People made choices. Relationships ended and began. Hearts broke and healed. But up here, on this balcony, in this moment, Ethan Cole was exactly where he needed to be. The next morning, they picked up Maya from Emily's parents. She was full of stories about staying up late, watching movies and eating too much cake, and learning to play mahjong for real money. Grandma won $40 from me, Maya said, outraged.
You gambled with my grandmother? Emily asked. She started it. That sounds like her. They spent the day at the beach, the three of them, building sandcastles and swimming and doing absolutely nothing productive. Maya buried Ethan up to his neck in sand. Emily took photos that would definitely be used to embarrass him later. This is nice, Maya said, lying on her towel, staring up at the sky. Being a family. We've always been a family, Ethan said. I know, but now it's official. Does that feel different? Yeah, better. Like we're not just pretending anymore. Ethan looked at Emily. She looked back at him. And they both understood what Maya meant. For so long, they'd been building something fragile, something that could have fallen apart if any of them had pushed too hard, or wanted too much, or expected perfection. But they'd made it through, and now it was real, official, permanent in a way that transcended paperwork and ceremonies. Later, after Maya fell asleep in the car on the drive home, Emily reached over and took Ethan's hand. Thank you, she said. For what? For being brave enough to start over, for choosing me, for building this life. You did just as much. I know. But you took the first step. That matters. He thought about that first step. Walking out of the penthouse in Seattle, boarding a plane to Singapore, choosing himself and Maya over a marriage that was already dead. It hadn't felt brave at the time. It had felt desperate, necessary, like the only option left. But maybe that's what bravery was. Not the absence of fear, just the refusal to let fear make your decisions for you. I'm glad I took it, he said. Me too. 6 months after the wedding, Vivian sent one last email. I saw the announcement. Congratulations on the marriage. Emily seems lovely. I'm getting married too. In November. Smaller ceremony than I originally wanted, but Derek thinks big weddings are wasteful. He's probably right. I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about what went wrong. My therapist says I need to stop doing that, but old habits die hard. I think I understand now what I couldn't see before. You didn't leave me because you stopped loving me. You left because I stopped loving myself. And I expected you to fill that void, to be my mirror, my validation, my proof that I was worth something. That was never fair to you. Derek's different. He doesn't let me get away with that. He calls me out when I'm spiraling. He makes me face myself instead of running away. It's uncomfortable as hell. But it's what I need. I'm not writing to apologize again. I've done that enough. I'm writing to say thank you for showing me what it looks like when someone actually loves themselves enough to walk away from something toxic. I've been trying to learn that lesson ever since. I hope you're happy. I hope Singapore is everything you wanted it to be. I hope Maya is thriving and Emily knows how lucky she is. And I hope someday you can think about our time together without wincing. Take care, Ethan. Vivian. Ethan read it twice, then he showed it to Emily. How does it make you feel? She asked. Sad. Not for me. For her. She's still trying to figure out things most people learn when they're kids. Do you think she will? Figure it out? I don't know. I hope so. Everyone deserves that. Are you going to respond? I don't think so. What's there to say? You could wish her well. She knows I do. She doesn't need me to say it. Emily nodded. Fair enough. He closed the laptop and didn't think about it again. Because that chapter was closed. The book was finished, and he had no interest in reading it again just to make sure the ending hadn't changed. A year after the wedding, Richard Ton offered Ethan a partnership in his development firm. Not as an employee, as an equal stakeholder with full creative control over all architectural projects. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, the kind of thing that could define a career. Ethan said yes without hesitation. That night he celebrated with Emily and Maya at their favorite hawker center, eating chili crab and fried rice and toasting with lime juice because Maya wasn't allowed champagne no matter how much she argued. To Dad, Maya said, raising her glass, for being successful and stuff. Very eloquent, Emily said. I'm 10, give me a break. You're almost 10. Same thing. They clinked glasses, ate too much food, walked home through the warm Singapore night. And Ethan thought about how far he'd come from that rainy penthouse in Seattle. From the man who'd felt like he was drowning in a life that looked perfect from the outside but was rotting from within. He'd lost everything once. Marriage, home, the illusion of stability.
And in losing it, he'd found something better, something real, not perfect, never perfect. Emily still got frustrated when he worked too late. Maya still pushed boundaries and tested limits. Work still had deadlines and stress and moments where Ethan wanted to walk away from everything. But they faced it together. And that made all the difference. Later, after Maya was asleep and Emily was reading in bed, Ethan stood on the balcony one last time, looking out at the harbor, at the city that had become home. His phone buzzed, a message from James, saw the news about the partnership. Proud of you, man. You earned this. Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you. Bullshit. You did all the hard work. I just kept the lights on. Still, appreciate it. You ever miss Seattle? Ethan thought about it. Sometimes, but not enough to come back. Fair. Singapore treating you well? Better than well. It's home now. Good. You deserve that. You deserve all of it. Thanks, James. Anytime. Now go celebrate with that wife of yours. Ethan smiled and put the phone away. Emily appeared in the doorway. You coming to bed? Yeah, just thinking. About? About how I got here. About how none of this was the plan. Plans are overrated. Are they? Yours was. Your plan was to stay in a dying marriage in Seattle, raising someone else's expectations of who you should be. I think we can both agree this is better. Significantly better. She pulled him inside, away from the balcony, away from the past. And as they settled into bed, Emily's head on his chest, her breathing evening out into sleep, Ethan finally allowed himself to feel it. The thing he'd been too scared to name, too superstitious to claim. Peace. Not the fragile kind that shatters at the first sign of trouble, but the deep, bone-level certainty that this was it. This was the life he was supposed to be living, with this woman, in this city, building this future. He'd been broken once, shattered, really, left standing in the wreckage of his own choices, wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. But broken things could be rebuilt, and sometimes what you built from the pieces was stronger than what you'd started with. That was the truth nobody talked about. That sometimes the best thing that could happen to you was having everything fall apart. Because it forced you to examine what you were actually building, forced you to decide what mattered, forced you to choose yourself. Ethan had chosen himself. And then he'd chosen Emily. And then he'd chosen this life. And every single day, he kept choosing it. That was what love was, he'd learned. Not some grand gesture, not some lightning bolt certainty, just the daily, unglamorous decision to show up, to try, to stay even when it was hard. Vivian had never learned that. She'd wanted love to be magic, to fix her, to complete her, to make her feel whole without her having to do the work herself. But Ethan had learned it the hard way. Had learned that you couldn't build a life with someone until you'd built one for yourself first. That you couldn't love someone else until you'd learned to love the person you actually were, not the person you wished you could be. It was a hard lesson, one that had cost him a marriage and 3 years of his life. But it was also the lesson that had brought him here, to this bed, to this woman, to this city, to this version of himself that was flawed and scarred and more honest than he'd ever been before. And if he could go back, if he could talk to that younger version of himself standing in the rain outside the penthouse, he'd tell him this: it gets better, not easier, not perfect, but better. You'll lose things you thought you couldn't live without. You'll make mistakes you can't take back. You'll hurt people you didn't mean to hurt. But you'll survive it. And on the other side, you'll find something worth all of it. A daughter who knows she's loved unconditionally, a partner who chooses you every single day, a life you actually want to wake up to. That's what rebuilding looks like. Not some Pinterest perfect vision of redemption, just the messy, imperfect, beautiful work of becoming yourself. Ethan closed his eyes, felt Emily's heartbeat against his side, and let himself drift toward sleep. Tomorrow, he'd wake up and make breakfast. He'd drop Maya at school. He'd go to work and design buildings and have meetings and do all the ordinary things that made up a life. But tonight, in this moment, he let himself rest in the knowledge that he'd made it through. The man who'd lost everything had found something better. And the billionaire's wife who'd taken him for granted had learned, too late, what it meant to lose something real. That was the ending. Not revenge, not reconciliation,
Just two people learning the lessons they needed to learn, even if the timing was all wrong. Ethan had learned his, had internalized it, had built a life from it. And somewhere in Seattle, he hoped Vivian was learning hers too. Because everyone deserved that chance. Everyone deserved to figure out who they were when nobody was watching, when there was no audience to perform for, when the only person they had to answer to was themselves. It wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary. And in the end, it was the only way to build something real, something that lasted, something worth keeping.